The wind scraped across the flight line, dragging snow in low. Hard sweeps that dissolved against the cement in bursts of white dust. The temperature had held below zero since 040. Snow layered on snow. Crystals crusted over the seams in the concrete like frost-bitten scar tissue. Lieutenant Claire Matthews stood at the edge of the last pad, beside an A-18E Super Hornet that hadn't moved in days. The aircraft loomed gray against the hangar lights, streaked with melt stains now frozen into its skin. The covers were still in place over the pitot tubes. The latter remained folded. No crew had approached it. She hadn't moved in 41 minutes. Her flight suit was regulations age, zipped to the collar. The sleeves had stiffened from exposure. Her gloves were hooked through her belt loop, fingers curled. Leather dark with cold. Blonde hair, tight behind her head. No flyaways. No statement. Snow drifted at her boots, halfway to the laces. She hadn't shifted weight. Not once. Behind the frosted windows of the ready room, 3 pilots leaned near the vent. Condensation rolled in uneven tracks where they'd wiped it clear. One of them, Captain Reese, laughed softly. Snowstand Sally's still out there. She thinks the plane's going to take pity on her. The others chuckled. One, Lieutenant Fairbanks, mimed a salute. Must be logging time through osmosis. No one corrected them. No one called her name. Inside, names rotated on the scramble board every 20 seconds. Orange letters blinked across black. Claire's name never appeared. Her helmet remained locked in a side locker. Her call sign had never been approved. In the files, she was still L.T. Matthews TAD, temporarily assigned duty. Ghosted in the rotation, not recalled, not activated. The F-A-18E beside her wore the quiet-like armor. Frost iced over its intake lip. No ground cable trailed from its power port. The nose wheel strut bore no chocks. No fueling tag had ever been clipped to its housing. She kept her hands low. Fingers didn't twitch. Eyes fixed toward the edge of the tarmac where the active jets prepped. 30 meters away, heat shimmered under the nearest one as it rolled to taxi. In the tower, a tech leaned from the watch window. His coffee half full and cooling fast. He squinted toward the pad. Is she even supposed to be there? His superior didn't answer, just kept his eyes on the live log. The snow thickened. Visibility dropped. At 0713, someone snapped a photo from the side exit of the maintenance trailer. Claire's outline, jet in the background, snow curling at her knees. The caption in the group thread read, Bench Warmer Barbie Day 12. She didn't flinch. The main hangar buzzed with movement. Hydraulic lifts raised. Compressors hissed. One tug pulled an HGU 68P helmet case across the far ramp. The pilot walking beside it wore aviators indoors. At 0719, the temperature fell another degree. Wind speed hit 16 knots. The chill factor brought it below 40. Claire blinked once. The radio inside the ready room hissed. Someone checked in with maintenance ops. Clearance for fuel on Jet 3. A captain set his coffee down and stretched. Another pilot looked toward the board. Still not her. Outside, her shadow angled across the concrete. The jet at her side remained untouched, not idling, not prepped. At 0727, Master Sergeant Dempsey exited the hangar, crossed the pad with a clipboard. He paused near Jet 5, glanced toward her, then away, said nothing. He didn't stop walking. Inside, no one marked her on the personnel board, no duty log updated. She was not listed on alert, not pending, not assigned. She adjusted nothing. She hadn't moved her feet. The only change had been the angle of the light. By 0738, the tower initiated a routine horn test, 85 decibels. Carried over ice. She did not react. In the ready room, someone whistled. Maybe she's part of a psychological op. Put her out there till we all feel bad. Another pilot grinned. Weird part is, she doesn't even look pissed. Claire looked toward the horizon. No expression. Her breathing slow, even. Not forced. At 0744, her name still wasn't on the board. At 0746, a raven crossed overhead, silent and low. At 0751, the temperature dipped another degree. At 0754, a mechanic hauling a cart of wheel chocks slowed briefly. Eyes on her figure, then moved on. The F-A-18E beside her remained dormant. At 0800, the light changed. A thin band of sun cut between hangars. It caught the frost on the aircraft's canopy, refracting in muted colors across the pad. Her silhouette intersected the arc of reflected light. Still, no one called her name, and she did not move. At 0813, the locker room air was dry, warm, and filled with the scent of boot polish and burnt coffee. Claire stepped in from the outer corridor, boots silent on the composite flooring. Her flight suit remained zipped to the collar. No one looked up. On the far bench, Captain Reese sprawled sideways, sipping coffee from a stainless mug streaked with old black marker. Lieutenant Fairbanks sat on the floor near his locker, boots off. One sock rolled halfway down. He flipped through a tablet, nodding to something he didn't share. Claire passed them both without acknowledgement. She moved to the end of the row, where the lockers were marked TAD. Temporarily assigned duty. The names here changed every 3 weeks. Except hers hadn't. It stayed printed in the same peeling label Matthews. C. She keyed the combination to the upper compartment. Inside, her helmet case sat untouched. A single HGU 68P flight helmet, standard issue, never personalized. No call sign painted on. The surface remained matte gray, unscuffed. Behind her, someone whistled softly. Not a song, just air through teeth. She didn't turn. To the left of the main board, each pilot's call sign hung on individual tags. Grizzly, Fangs, Showtime, Throttle. Hers wasn't there. The space beneath her name was bare, laminated white. She pulled a checklist from the side shelf, folded, written in her own hand. Oil smudges along the edge. She didn't open it. She just touched the corner once, folded it again, and slid it into the thigh pocket of her flight suit. Lieutenant Avery, 3 lockers down, pulled open his compartment and bumped the door against hers. He didn't apologize. His scent was burnt protein shake and cologne. He cleared his throat. "Word is you're still waiting on your slot," he said. Not cruel, not kind, just curious. His voice was casual, like asking about weather. She didn't answer, just closed the locker with a low click and turned away. At 0817, she passed the scramble board again. It cycled names in orange LEDs. 3 minutes per cycle. Hers never came up. In the ready room, the other pilots sipped coffee, legs kicked out. Parkas draped over chairs like they owned the walls. A game ran silently on one of the wall screens, a college football replay. No one watched. Captain Reese glanced toward her as she entered, then looked back to his mug. Lieutenant Harper smirked. Must have taken a wrong turn. The observation deck's that way. Nobody laughed. Nobody stopped him either. Claire took the only unclaimed chair, side of the room, no cushion. She set her gloves on the table, laid out flat, palms down. Her watch read 0819. She checked the board again. At 0821, the room shifted. Tech Sergeant Lewis entered, clipboard in hand. Jet 3 wheels up in 30, Fairbanks and Harper, gear in 10. The 2 men rose slowly, stretching. Claire didn't move. Lewis didn't look at her. Reese stood and scratched his chin. Still no news on TAD status, he asked, directing it toward the tech. His tone was light, but the point was sharp. Lewis barely lifted his eyes. Still pending? Claire watched the board. The names rotated again. U-823. Her spot stayed blank. She rose quietly, collected her gloves, and stepped back into the hall. The administrative wing was dimmer, fewer windows. The scheduling screen outside the KG office displayed squadron allocations. For the week, she wasn't on it, not in Echo, not in Delta. No flight assignments, no sim rotations. Her dossier lay thin in the clerk's inbox. Top of the folder, a sticky note read, "Awaiting review." The ink had faded. At airweight 27, she walked past the maintenance bay. A pair of enlisted techs leaned against a tow cart, sipping Gatorade from identical green bottles. One of them saw her, nudged the other. No idea why she even suits up. The first one said. The second one shrugged. Maybe she thinks standing near a jet counts. Neither said it loudly, but neither whispered. She passed them without change in pace. At 0829, she stepped into the equipment cage. The sergeant on duty didn't look up. He was labeling a thermal jacket with duct tape. Claire waited, then spoke, level, requesting checkout for flight gloves and helmet access. The sergeant didn't meet her eyes. He tapped the screen twice. "You're not in rotation today. Your gear's still on reserve hold." "I understand." He said nothing more. She turned, walked out, left no sound. By 0834, she stood again at the edge of the pad. Same FA-18E. Same snowdrift curling near the intake lip. She walked once around the aircraft, did not touch it, just observed. The wheels hadn't shifted since last Thursday. The maintenance sticker still read INOP hold. She paused near the left stabilizer, reading the serial number stamped in silver. Inside, the others suited up. Outside, Claire Matthews marked the time. Or wait, 38. No one called her. No one sent her. She stayed. At 22:04, the hall outside the barracks wing was quiet. Lights dimmed to half level. A faint buzz echoed from the fluorescent tubes overhead. Claire stepped through the entry to her dorm, boots making no sound on the tile. The room was regulation standard, single bunk, metal desk. Chair pressed flush beneath it, no posters, no decoration. Her gear bag sat under the bed, zippers shut. On the desk, a small lamp lit a tight cone of pale amber. It cast no shadows wide enough to reach the corners. She removed her boots without sitting, set them in alignment against the wall. No socks, just skin pressed to cold floor. She reached beneath her pillow and pulled out the gloves. Regulation leather, palms worn smooth, labels fading. She set them beside the lamp. A small black stopwatch, analog, rested on a folded towel. She picked it up, checked the second hand, still ticking. She clicked the top button once, reset. The laminated diagram came next, trim toggles, battery master, fuel isolation. Each panel drawn by hand, traced over technical reference sheets copied at the base library. The corners had started to curl. One edge bore tape where it had torn from use. She placed it on the desk, flattened it with her palm. Then she set a pencil beside it. Not to write, just part of the layout. Same each night. At 22:06, she took her seat, straight back, feet flat. Left hand rested beside the stopwatch. Right hovered above the laminated schematic. No music, no background feed. Only the wind outside brushing the building's siding. She closed her eyes, clicked the stopwatch, began. Right index finger battery master, hold for 1 count. Right thumb external power, simulate connect. Left index fuel isolation valve, sweep to open. Right pinky APU control, toggle arm. Left hand ECS control, flow bypass. Right middle oxygen system, test engage. Her fingers moved in a tight, familiar arc over the laminated sheet. Each motion timed, each sequence locked. No labels needed now. She didn't look down. By 0019 on the dial, her right hand paused over the throttle diagram. She feathered 2 fingers along the edge, mimicked push to idle gate, held it. Left hand returned to oxygen bypass, touched the circle once. Simulated manual override. At 0026, she stopped the watch, wrote nothing, reset, waited, listened to the silence, then started again. Battery master, external power, fuel isolation, APU, ECS, oxygen, throttle, generator check, light sequence, brake system pressure test. At 22:09, a gust outside shifted the vent louvers above her head. Cold filtered through. She didn't react, kept pace, reset, repeated. For the 5th run, she added auxiliary steps, canopy latch, seat height adjustment, HUD sync, radio preset up. Each one performed as finger gestures in empty air. Hovering just over the desktop, her eyes remained closed. By 22:14, her left hand trembled once, then stilled. She adjusted the schematic back to center, reset the stopwatch again. The 6th run included emergency shutdown protocol throttle to idle. Fuel gate closed, battery master off, ejection seat safety pin, reset. Hydraulic pressure bleed, radio to guard. She didn't rush, didn't slow. The stopwatch measured. The silence stayed. At 22:18, she opened her eyes once, checked the second hand, reset, began again. Each repetition locked the sequence tighter. Each pass burned the order deeper. No deviation, no correction. Her posture remained square, elbows tucked, shoulders level. By 22:24, she added cold start modification, no external power. Internal sequence only. Simulate low battery voltage condition, skip HUD sync, trim direct to APU surge. Her right index slowed slightly at the generator switch. She corrected mid-gesture. Reset. She ran that version twice. At 22:29, her breath had shortened slightly. Condensation edged the inside of the lamp dome. Her fingertips showed no hesitation. She shifted the pencil 1 inch clockwise, adjusted the schematic again, restarted. At 22:32, she ran a night ops variation. No cabin lights. Comm circuit set to STBY. Oxygen purge held until +122. Simulate blackout flight. Fingers tapped the desk in exact cadence. No visual checks. At 22:36, she stopped for 15 seconds. Not rest. Just pause. She placed the gloves over the top left corner of the diagram. Let them settle. Removed them again. Restarted. Run 9. Run 10. Run 11. By 22:48, the room's warmth had faded. She hadn't noticed. Her hands moved with slower deliberation. Same pattern. Same speed. Run 12. On the next pass, she included startup failure, simulate APU fail, skip to emergency battery, toggle ECS twice, wait 10 seconds, reset fuel gate. The stopwatch ticked past 0:27. She completed the loop at 0:33. Accepted the overage, reset, marked the failure protocol silently. At 22:53, she stacked the diagram on top of a thin manual binder, slid both beneath the desk edge, placed the stopwatch on top, wound the dial 1 notch, set it down. She stood, rolled her shoulders once, and walked to the shelf. 3 folders. 1 empty, 1 reference, 1 personal. She slid her notes into the third, no label. Gloves returned beneath the pillow. Pencil into the tray. At 22:56, she sat again, not to rest, just to center. The room stayed quiet. Lights buzzed faintly. The base outside slept. She stared at the wall, straight ahead, not thinking. At 23:00, she stood, no fatigue in her motion, no ritual to end the ritual. She reset the chair, switched off the lamp, crossed to the bunk. Laid down without covers. Breath steady, hands flat, boots still aligned beneath the bed. No noise, no audience, no reward. Just the training. And the cold. At 00:41, the first hangar door clanked shut. A distant echo rolled along the tarmac. The air outside bit sharper than forecast. Wind peeled across the flat, untouched snow, dragging streaks through the tire grooves that hadn't been fresh in days. Claire stepped out through the auxiliary exit near Bay 3. No flashlight. No hood. Her boots compressed against the hardened powder in short, measured steps. No stumble. No sound beyond wind and her gait. Overhead, the beacon atop the control tower rotated once every 4 seconds. A yellow pulse rolled across the parked jets, catching silver along the canopies. One bulb buzzed weakly above the portside catwalk and flickered each time she passed underneath. Jet 2 stood in silhouette beside a bulk fuel cart, hoses coiled tight, ladders stowed. A chalk line trailed from its main gear and vanished under the tail. She didn't look at it long. At 00:44, she reached the midline between Pad 3 and Pad 4. The wind tunneled harder here. It caught the hem of her flight suit, lifted it slightly, dropped it again. Her hair shifted against her collar, then stilled. Her hands stayed at her sides. She passed Jet 4 in profile. A single maintenance cover was half-latched on the starboard nacelle. Someone had forgotten to finish inspection. She didn't stop. She noted the latch's position, its angle. Jet 6 stood partially covered in frost. Static ports glowed faint with residual heat. A ground unit was parked 10 feet off, idle, cables looped tight to the frame. No movement, no crew. She moved with purpose. Each step took the same length of time. Roughly 1.5 seconds per footfall. Her shadow stretched behind her in angles as the ramp lights flicked overhead. She made no noise on approach. Jet 7 waited beyond the last cart. No lights, no prep. Its canopy was dull from accumulated ice. Frost sheeted along the intakes. Nose gear set, tail planes leveled. A blue tag dangled from the left panel. Not mission ready. Electrical. At 0:47, she stopped 3 feet from the aircraft. Boots perfectly aligned with the forward intake line. She didn't touch it. Not yet. She stepped left, circled the nose. Her hand hovered at shoulder height. Just above the sensor housing, she mimicked a reach. Fingers curled to simulate release of the probe latch. touched nothing, then continued. Down the left side, she tracked the gear housing, bent slightly, pressed one gloveless hand flat to the ground, 6 inches from the main tire. Checked moisture, checked pressure visually, ice layer on strut, correct for temperature. She rose, continued to the fuselage, her right hand lifted. Touched just beside the ladder mount, no hesitation. Her thumb traced the invisible latch of the auxiliary panel. She held it 1 count, then released. Tail check. She crouched slightly behind the horizontal stabilizer. Near the arresting hook, eyes tracked the edge of the ventral fin. Her hand didn't rise this time. She observed, counted bolts, counted pins, memorized spacing. Back up the right side, APU intake vent. She mimicked unlocking it. Short twist. Retract motion, pause, hold. At 0053, she reached the cockpit ladder. Still up, still latched. She looked at the canopy seal. No cracks, no separation at the right edge. The ice pattern undisturbed. She placed her right hand flat against the side panel, held it for 2 seconds, then stepped away. She moved to the trailing edge of the right wing, dropped to a knee again. Checked flapline with 2 fingers, simulated torque check, leaned forward. Left palm hovered above the hinge recess. Imaginary grease inspection. She stood slowly. At 0055, she faced the aircraft again, full body square to the nose. 1 step forward, left hand at waist, touched the imaginary circuit breaker. Right hand mirrored fuel selector gate. No sound, no second try. Then the oxygen port. She pressed a fingertip into the air where it would be. Held 3 counts, stepped back. At 0057, she took 1 slow walk around the perimeter, eyes tracing seams, gear, ailerons, heat signature pattern from memory, trim setting residue on the left rudder, no shortcuts, no deviations. The wind picked up, blew grit across the concrete. A cable from the neighboring sled flapped once and settled, the only sound. At 0100, she stood directly behind the aircraft, measured distance from the exhaust nozzles. She did not lean. She did not warm her hands. She did not look behind. 1 more pass, this time diagonal, across the pad, crossing the wingspan. She paused beneath the port wing, reached toward the pylon, touched the hard air in the shape of a fuel rack. 2 fingers along the imagined mount. Short lift motion. Drop. Reset. At 0103, she stopped at the nose again. She placed her left hand against the metal. The skin contact was brief. At 0104, she turned away, walked back the way she came. No alarm, no flashlight, just the steps, the wind, and her memory. At 0412, the alarm hit like a slap. 3 tones, rising, then flat. Emergency scramble protocol, not a drill. Inside the ready room, boots thudded, chairs overturned, coffee hit the floor. The board lit red, names flicked into rotation. Reese, Fairbanks, Avery. The PA repeated scramble, scramble, scramble. Echo flight, immediate. Pilots shouted. Let's move gear now. Where's my damn helmet? Claire stood already. No voice, no rush. She stepped past a dropped headset. Didn't flinch at the noise. Reese yelled across the bay, Let's go! Let's go! Matthews turned toward the door. Not toward the locker room. Not toward briefing. She moved straight out the south hatch. Outside, the air punched with frost. Lights stuttered on the flight line. A crew chief sprinted toward Jet 2 headset, flapping. Another barked at an airman to unhook the cables. Claire crossed to the tarmac. Wind slammed her collar flat to her neck. She didn't adjust. Her boots hit ice, didn't slip. At 0413, she reached the perimeter of Pad 4. Someone yelled from behind, That's not your jet. She didn't turn. 2 techs by Jet 6 looked up, confused. She's not cleared. One tried to intercept. She sidestepped him without slowing. Jet 7 sat dark, frost-coated, dead status, tag still on the panel. She stopped in front of it, pulled the cover from the ladder latch. It hissed. Froze her fingers. She didn't stop. Pulled again. Ladder dropped. She climbed. A tech on the line grabbed his headset. Sir, unauthorized movement on Pad 7. Somebody stop her. Claire reached the cockpit, flipped the canopy seal. It groaned. Ice cracked. She pushed it open, dropped into the seat. No helmet, No checklist. She strapped in blind. Behind her, footsteps slapped the concrete. Lieutenant Matthews, get out of that bird. She reached to the left panel. Battery master. On. The panel lit, sluggish from cold. Her hands moved fast now. Left generator. Fuel selector. APU arm. She didn't speak, didn't look up. A tech climbed the ladder. You're not cleared. She toggled ECS flow. Right hand snapped the throttle to idle gate. APU start. Engine 1. Bleed air cycling. The ladder rattled. He was trying to pull her. She pushed back, elbow sharp to his forearm. He lost grip. Dropped. Canopy close. Lock. Her right hand flicked the oxygen switch. Left check trim. Flaps neutral. Fuel flow steady. No caution. Jet 7 growled. A low, rising whine. At 04:15 it roared to life. Crew chiefs shouted, "Who authorized Jet 7? Cut power. Cut external." There is no external, she's running internal only. Jesus, she's spooling engine 2. Claire checked both engine lights. Stable, no fire, hydraulic green. Pressure within range. She didn't wait. Brakes off? Chocks were never down. She hit the taxi line. Snow scattered in spirals behind the nose gear. The tower came alive. Unidentified taxi on pad 7, call sign unknown. Identify immediately. She flipped comm to Stevie Y. Didn't reply. By 04:17 she hit the end of the ramp. Throttled forward. Jet 3 was still rolling. Jet 4 hadn't cleared. She banked left. Avoided the nose by inches. Reese saw her from inside and froze. She aligned with the emergency strip. No ground crew, no signal. Didn't matter. Throttle full. Nose wheel lifted. Takeoff roll at 04:18:07. Wheels up at 04:18:26. Altitude climbing. Jet 7 vanished into snow mist. A single black line cut across the white sky. Back on the ground, the tech stood in stunned silence. Jet 7 was airborne. Nobody sent her. Nobody cleared her. And no one stopped her. At 04:18:01 Claire climbed. Right foot to the ladder, left hand gripping frost-caked rail, canopy unsealed. Ice flaked down her sleeve. Wind howled across the pad. No lights. No prep crew. She dropped into the seat. Left hand to the battery switch, toggle on. Screens blinked. Sluggish. MFDs lit dull green. No boot-up chime. APU switch arm. Finger held for 3 seconds. Release. Fuel boost on. Right panel. Middle row. Throttle idle. Both levers firm. Cold stiffened. ECS on. Airflow low. Cabin frost remained. Left DDI initialized. Backup attitude gyro spun slowly. No caution yet. APU start. Thumb rotated hard. Engine sound shifted. Whine rose. She watched the RPM climb. 6%. 12. 18. Ignition right engine. She toggled the start. At 04:18:07 engine 1 turned over. Hydraulic pressure up. Oil temp rising. Right DDI flashed online. Status page clear. Gen 1 available. Throttle adjusted. Held idle. Left hand moved without pause. Ignition left engine. Engine 2 spun. Flames caught. Burn stabilized. Both engines live. Jet 7 shivered as systems came online. Frost steamed across the canopy edges. Heat bled from the vents. She ran a 2-finger press across comm 1. Set guard. Didn't speak. Oxygen switch on. Trim checked. Elevator neutral. Rudder centered. Flaps half. Gear lights green. Brake hold left pedal. Stick test slight roll. Pitch. No flutter. She scanned. No faults. At 04:18:15 she released brakes. Throttle eased forward. Jet 7 rolled. No tow tug. No ground signal. Canopy locked. Harness tight. No helmet. She reached the line. Wind cross at 7 knots. Correction minor. Throttle halfway. Jet 3 still taxiing. She angled left. No clearance. She didn't wait. At 04:18:21 full throttle. Engines roared. She tracked centerline. Nose down. Eyes fixed. Speed readout flickered 84, 102, 126. She pulled. Jet 7 lifted. Wheels up at 04:18:26. Altitude increasing. Vapor trails snapped behind the wing roots. In the tower, no words. On the ramp, cruise frozen. She was airborne. From dead jet to sky, 19 seconds. No countdown, no orders, no one beside her. Only the motion. And silence. At 0425, Claire banked left. Altitude 19,300 feet, airspeed holding 312 knots. Frost laced the canopy edge. Sun still buried beneath the Dakota horizon. Clouds scattered below like broken glass. No radar lock, no IFF return, just a blip. Moving west. No transponder. Jet 7 had no working HUD. No waypoint cue. She flew blind. Wind crossed from the north at 18 knots. She corrected with a 2-degree offset. Slight yaw trim. Adjusted roll axis by feel. At 0427, the contact drifted into view. Black, angular, sharp trailing edge, no contrail, no lights, no cockpit. Stealth drone. Shape matched nothing in base inventory. Not Reaper, not Gray Eagle. Smaller. Cleaner, no tail rotor, likely autonomous. Altitude 20,000, holding pattern tight, slow arc over the open plains. Claire didn't engage, she shadowed. Throttle eased to 78%, kept separation, 1,000 meters back. Offset to the right. Jet 7's systems stayed dark. Only standby gyros fed her pitch, altimeter steady. Fuel within margin. The drone banked, sharp, deliberate, gained elevation, turned northeast. She followed. At 0430, wind shear struck. Slight jolt. Nose dipped half a degree. She trimmed instantly, held course. Her fingers never left the stick. Throttle palm rested. No tension. Drone climbed again. Claire mirrored. They passed 21,500 feet. The air thinned. RPMs rose. Frost returned to the canopy's lower seam. She blinked. Nothing else moved. No call came from the tower. No vector correction. She flew alone. The drone accelerated. Claire pushed throttle to 91%. Nose down 2 degrees, held. Jet 7 vibrated at the edge of its envelope. She compensated. Adjusted flaps. Held center. They flew north, crossing into the Bakken oil fields. At 0433, the drone dived. Claire followed. Speed jumped. Wind screamed past the canopy. Structural whine built low in her seat. Altitude dropped 4,000 feet in under 12 seconds. She leveled just above the cloud deck. Snow haze below. Nothing visible on ground. Drone streaked ahead. She closed. 400 meters now. Its fuselage shimmered slightly. Heat exhaust bleeding from internal ducts. She eased left, matched vector. Kept parallel, eyes never leaving the target. No chatter, no alert, just engines and sky. At 0436, the drone made a hard S-turn. Claire matched. Pulled 3.2 G. Minimal stall. Throttle held steady. She gritted once, jaw locked. Not pain, focus. They leveled, altitude 17,000. Drone banked again, tighter now. She cut across the arc, closed within 200 meters. No rear camera pods, no markings. At 0438, Claire dropped lower, slipped under its belly, observed. No payload bays open, no weapons hardpoints, pure recon. She held position, shadowed its underside. Jet 7's nose dipped slightly with turbulence. She held it. For 16 seconds, both aircraft flew in lock. No sound. Just frost, sky, and pressure. At 0509, Jet 7 reappeared on the horizon. No radio call, no tower vector. Just visual confirmation from the north approach. Gear down, flap steady. Glide angle perfect. Claire kept the pattern tight, banked slow over the east field. Final at 300 AGL. Wind steady, cross from starboard. No noise inside the tower. The landing was smooth. Rear gear first, nose gear dropped a second later. Reverse thrust engaged briefly, then idle. No brake chatter. At 0511, Jet 7 rolled to a halt near Pad 5. No marshal waited. No crew chief approached. Claire cut both engines, one, then two. APU winded down. Canopy opened with a groan. Ice cracked along the seal. She climbed out alone. Left boot hit the deck first. She pulled off her gloves, walked toward the ready room. Inside the tower, the replay looped. Camera 4, timestamp 041801. Claire reaching Jet 7. 041807, engines spooling, no ground prep. 04-1826, Jet 7 airborne. 19 seconds. The screen froze on her liftoff, wheels folding in. Nose catching the dawn light. No one spoke. Captain Reese stared, shoulders forward, hands loose. Lieutenant Harper leaned against the console, mouth half open, silent. The tech sergeant who had denied her helmet access watched without blinking. No one reached for the pause button. Claire stepped through the corridor. Boots echoed once, then softened on the rug past admin. She passed the comm station. A junior officer stood there, headset dangling, eyes tracking her in silence. No salute, no words. She stepped into the main wing. Locker room ahead. The smell of coffee lingered. Lieutenant Avery stood near his locker, flight suit unzipped. He glanced up. Didn't speak. Captain Reese met her in the hallway. Stopped. Claire walked past. No nod, no glance. She reached her locker, opened it, placed the gloves inside, closed the door. At 05:16 she walked out. No one followed. At 09:00 the debrief room filled. 12 seats, officers only, rank posted, no one late. The projector screen glowed soft blue. No one spoke above a whisper. Colonel Trent entered at 09:02, uniform perfect, folders in hand, no aid. He stood, plugged in the drive, turned to face the group. Let's begin. The screen cut to black, then video. Camera 4, pad 7. Claire, cold start, ladder, engines. Timer in bottom corner. 04-1807. Spool up. 04-1826. Airborne. Footage shifted. Infrared trail. Jet 7's climb path. No deviation. Next slide radar overlay. Track Alpha unidentified UAS. Track Bravo Jet 7 intercept. Time to contact 6 minutes, 41 seconds. Pentagon watermark bottom right. Colonel Trent looked around. This was a scheduled stealth test. None of you were briefed. He paused, let the weight settle. Only one pilot reached altitude. No alert sent. No scramble issued. He nodded toward the screen. Lieutenant Matthews acquired, pursued, and mirrored a next-gen recon drone. Unassisted, without nav support. No one shifted. Trent continued. Washington confirms earliest intercept in base records. Fastest scramble since reactivation. He looked down at the folder, then up. Effective immediately. He turned to Claire. Your call sign is Vapor. A second pause. He turned to Captain Reese. You'll file correction reports on your rotation board by 1600. All training logs for Jet 7's status are under review. Then to Lieutenant Avery. Helmet access protocol is under command restriction, not personal discretion. To the room. This isn't about rules broken. It's about standards ignored. He turned off the screen. Lieutenant. Claire stood. One breath, measured. I followed protocol, just not yours. She sat. Colonel Trent didn't respond. He closed the folder. Dismissed. At 09:17 the room emptied. No one looked away from her. No one laughed. At 06:03 the ramp lights buzzed on. First shift. Cold morning. Frost light across the tarmac. Claire stood at the front of Formation Echo. 3 aircraft aligned. Engines silent, pilots ready. She scanned the wing lines, walked slow, checked trim positions, fuel caps, gear locks. Nothing spoken unless needed. Lieutenant Mendez stood at her left. New pilot, tight shoulders, flight suit perfect. Claire nodded once. Mendez nodded back. Inside the ready room, a photo hung framed above the ops desk. Jet 7 frozen on lift, wheels up, tail shadow slicing the morning. Caption burned below Vapor, 19 seconds. Nobody joked anymore. At 06:07 Captain Reese passed her on the line, saluted. She returned it. Nothing said. Gear crews stayed sharp when she checked in. Radios quiet. Respect didn't need volume. By 06:10 her boots hit the ladder. She climbed Jet 5, canopy already prepped. Helmet placed exact on the seat. She adjusted the strap, tightened once, dropped into the cockpit. Routine, now, not ritual. Battery, Gen 1, fuel boost, oxygen, throttle idle. Cold start sequence initiated. Right engine spun first, then left. Hydraulic stable. Comm check, short click, no chatter. She scanned gauges, flaps down, nose pitch preset. Ground gave green. She eased throttle, taxi slow. Behind her, 2 aircraft followed. Clean line, distance held. Shadowed her every pivot. She didn't look back. At 0614, Claire stopped short of runway 22. Tower cleared echo flight. She pushed to threshold. Nose forward, hands relaxed. She watched the horizon. No nerves, no noise in her thoughts. Only sky, only task. Legacy wasn't medals or cheers. It was silence, and discipline, and lead.